Renewcell has today published their report for the second quarter of 2022, and standing beside me is Patrik Lundström, its CEO, who are guesting here today in the live interview to answer some of my questions as well as your questions. And if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask them in the live chat below. Patrik, you've just released a report. How does that feel?
Great. I think it's a good report. It also reflects the status where we're at, and of course, we're very proud of starting up the Renewcell 1 plant.
And we'll go over the report just now. 2.5 million SEK in sales for the quarter, an increase from last year's second quarter of 222,000. You reported in Q1 2 million in sales. The loss of the period increased as well. However, 68.4 million all in all. Tell us, was the results for this quarter in line with your expectations?
Yeah, as you can see, we're increasing our sales, and this is actually sales from our Kristinehamn plant. Reason why we're able to increase it quarter over quarter is that back in last year, 21, in Q2, we actually took a step back and we started implementing Six Sigma programs. And with that, we have learned so much more about the process, which also have made us in a position where we can actually increase our capacity out of the Kristinehamn plant month over month. We actually have approximately 90% of all the dissolving pulp or all the circulose that we produce in Kristinehamn is actually in spec today. So that of course increases the capacity. But moreover, and I think maybe more importantly, it shows that we have our Kristinehamn plant under control, which of course give me great comfort in when we're starting up the Ortviken plant. So that feels very good, and of course, these are smaller numbers in the end, but I think the indication on where we're at and the 90% in spec is important. When it comes to the capex and to the expenditures, it is absolutely in line where we're supposed to be, and we're building a plant, so that takes some cash, but it looks very positive for that end as well.
You launched a new plant during following the quarter, but work has been underway during the quarter, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But a quick review from your income statement reveals that the expenditures that did increase was personnel costs and financial items as well as external expenses. I thought you could tell us a little bit about what drives the increases in these costs.
Well, the personnel cost, of course, we are staffing up. We were about a year ago, we were maybe 30, 40 people, but today we're about 139 at the site. And that is, of course, we have all the shifts in place. They're starting running the plant right now. When it comes to expenditures, I mean, it is in line. And what was the other question?
Where it was external expenses, personnel costs, and financial items.
No, external expenses is, of course, also related to subcontractors. And then financial items, yeah, we have taken up loans and we're starting to paying on those loans.
The new plant?
Yep.
It just started producing on 19th of August. Tell me, what is your first impression of the plant now that it is running?
I'm proud, of course, that's my first feeling. But also the impression is, you know, the plant is built purposely for our operations. If you take the Kristinehamn plant, it was built to showcase, and that was built by ourselves. This plant has been built by professionals, so to a large extent, Valmet and Andres, who are experts in pulp and paper machineries and so forth. As well as with ABB, and so we have very close collaborations with them. And so the first impression is that it's very modern. We have all the most modern equipment, except for the dryer, which is a used dryer. But dryers, you know, they have a very, very long lifetime. The dryer we started running operations there. So I feel very positive on where we are there. And we're starting running it now. And it will take approximately a month to start up everything. You don't start up a plant like this in series, you do that in parallel. And from there, we're then going to have to start ramping up and fine-tuning the quality and so forth. And the way you start a plant like this is you start with runnability, meaning that you can load raw material and you get pulp on the other end, and that will have approximately by the end of this month approximately. Not this month, but next. And the next part is you're running for quality, and that will take somewhere 3 to 6 months or so, and have that. And meanwhile, we will start sampling our customers and selling some smaller quantities. And then it's the ramp up. So it's 3 different phases. And I feel quite confident because the performance of the Kristinehamn plant is very good, as well as we have purposely built equipment, but also guarantees from our suppliers. So knock on wood, it will work very well.
And the plant is clearly built for production as well. 60,000 tons is the capabilities, and you're already going to expand it to meet demand further, 120,000 tons. This quarter, you issued shares, and it brought you 324 million SEK. 2 years ahead of schedule, it says in the report. Tell us, when will the expansion project start, and when do you expect it to end?
It's starting now. So the project director is already moving down his involvement in the Ortviken or the Renewcell 1 plant, and the site manager, he has the main responsibility of the site right now. So we're moving that direction already. It will take approximately up until quarter 1 next year. So it's going to be end of 23, beginning of 24 when this plant will be operational. So that work is already started up, and we're moving in that direction already.
So efforts will be made in the second half of the year. How much effort are you going to put into it comparing to other efforts that you're making in the second half?
It's a lot less. I mean, if you look at Renewcell, this is actually an expansion of Renewcell 1. We call that Renewcell 1A and Renewcell 1B. Renewcell 1A is the 60,000 tons, but we have built the plant for 120,000 metric tons. So the majority of the investments for 120,000 tons has already been taken. And so the expansion from 60 to 120,000 tons is more of a debottlenecking exercise. So it's a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to do that, and it's going to take a lot less time and effort.
Do you expect the expansion or the production of Renewcell 1B to affect the production in Renewcell 1A?
Not to a large extent. Maybe somewhere we need to connect some pipes, but you're building those piping and so forth in parallel while you're running. So that might be a few days or a week here or there. But maybe we can do that with a general maintenance stop, but that is to be seen.
I'm also curious about the financing for the project. Will all the money from the shares issue be concentrated towards this effort?
Yeah, the majority of it at least, but there's also, of course, a little bit of OPEX in there. But and you need to also run the project team and so forth. But yes, the majority.
What of the loan facilities that you mentioned? There's an additional 150 million. What are the terms of that loan?
The terms of that loan, well, it's not. I mean, we have the term sheet. We're still negotiating some of the terms, so I'll have to pass on that question, please.
Very well. Moving back towards the shares issues, then it's kind of rare to see shares issues during the first half of the year, mostly due to the market conditions. Tell us could you walk us through the shares issue? How was it like to actually perform it, and what was the interest from shareholders? The interest from shareholders, we were oversubscribed. On all the shares we have done have been oversubscribed. There's a huge interest for shares in Renewcell. Why did we do it in the first half? Well, the reason is we are more or less sold out already on the 60,000 metric tons. And in order for us to be able to engage in negotiations for further contracts and enlarge and further contracts, we have to have additional capacity, or at least have announced that we have additional capacities.
Otherwise, there's nothing to negotiate about, as you can imagine. So that was the whole reason. It's the market that actually drives us to having to expand. And moreover, we have also, from start, the majority of the plant is geared 420,000 metric tons. So it's almost a bit silly almost not to go for the last bit. And as you can see on that share issue, it's very small compared to the 1.5 billion that we raised for the first part of the plant. So we feel quite confident in that. And maybe it's not an optimal time when you have that, but when we started the whole share issue, the market was actually looking very, very differently. It was a bull's market, and then we just when the war in Ukraine came in and so forth were started, you got into a bear market. But we feel very strongly that you need to have that extra capacity in order to continue the development of the company. So it feels good that we have the money and that we're actually starting the project.
Of course. The Renewcell 1B together with Renewcell 1A will be able to produce 120,000 tons. Addressable market, you write, is 30 million tons by 2030. I thought you could comment on that as well.
Sure. I mean, if you look at where we are today, I mean, we're making a dissolving pulp, which is used for making viscose fibers. So the total of that viscose market is addressable by 2030, and by 2030 it's going to be 11 million tons. But also the cotton market, we have shown that we can replace cotton, and there's a lot of cotton manufacturers and also brands who want to replace cotton. Cotton is nice to wear, but it's not a nice crop. It's a monoculture. It uses enormous amounts of water, fertilizers, and pesticides. So we have a huge problem on the environmental impact of cotton. The Aral Sea, for example, is gone because of cotton agriculturing. So we see that we can probably replace about 30% of the cotton market, brings us to another 13 million tons there. On top of that, we also shown during the quarter that, or if it was quarter one, that we can actually make viscose filaments. And viscose filaments can be replacement for polyesters. And we see a huge interest there as well. We see about 15% of that. That's another 5 million tons. So you have the 11, 13, and 5. So that takes you to 29 million tons of opportunity. Now, 29 million tons, you have to compare that with the viscose market of today, which is about 8 million tons or so. And some of the largest viscose manufacturers, about 1 million ton. So the market is pretty much endless for us. And here we have a challenge in order to meet all that demand. And we have to remember that this is actually not numbers that we have come up with. This is something that we did with a consultant agency who've been asking the brands, how much do you need by 2030? So we're in a good shape there.
Good to hear. During the quarter, there was a little bit of activity in Denmark. Luxury brand Ganni announced the launch of products with your technology, and the technology will also be the first partner to an event, Copenhagen Fashion Week. Tell us more about the partnership. How will it work?
Well, we are supporting young designers in the Copenhagen Fashion Week. And the young designers and upcoming designers are normally the trendsetters in the fashion industry. And we will support the Fashion Week with also supporting young designers, but also the Fashion Week as a whole. The Copenhagen Fashion Week has become the most important fashion show for sustainability. Their edge is they're looking at young designers and upcoming designers, but also into sustainability and moreover to circularity. And there we have a fantastic win-win situation. We of course want to be connected to those type of platforms. So what we're going to do is we're going to be supporting the Copenhagen Fashion Week for 5 seasons. So the first season was just done, and then we have another 4 seasons to go. And we will, promote circulars, of course, but we will also discuss and see how can we actually help the fashion industry in light of the 30 million tons. How can actually the fashion industry become circular or sustainable? So there is a win-win situation.
Talk to us about season 1. And what sort of feedback did you receive?
Oh, it was fantastic. I was actually on a fashion show on a catwalk, and very interesting. And we got a lot of media attention out of that, both from Vogue, ID, and all those big fashion magazines. That was a little bit of a new experience for me, of course. I'm an industrial person and been building plants and companies in business-to-business space. But coming there and seeing these young designers and their creativity and their way forward and so forth is so inspiring. And we were supporting Jade Cropper in her show, and she is an amazing young woman who is developing her brand, Jade Copper, and she was, the highlight of the whole show. And I had the pleasure of being invited to her fashion show. So I was sitting there and seeing all the models passing by. New experience, very interesting.
Sounds great. Well, as we walk now into the second half of the year, what can shareholders look forward to?
Well, we continue working on Renewcell 1, and we will continue working on the 1B, of course, the expansion, as well as starting up the plant in full, of course. So everything is in the move, and what I think investors should look out for is, this is happening right now on the marketplace. Fashion brands are so interested. Look at the collaborations that we're having. Look for, how are we doing with the startup and so forth. But it looks very positive. So we have a very exciting next half year in front of us.
Patrik, that was all my questions. We have no questions from viewers, but I thank you very much for your time and wish both you and Renewcell continued luck in the future.
Thank you so much.